I would like to call the regularly scheduled board meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Let it be noted that all directors are present. Mr. Bartz, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to pull item 6A. We'll do that at a different meeting.
Okay. And if there are no further changes, do I have a motion?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, none opposed, motion passes. Move on to public comment. Under this item, any member of the public wishing to directly address the board on any item of interest that may or may not be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. However, the board is prohibited by law from taking any action on any item not appearing on the agenda unless the action is otherwise authorized by the Brown Act. Any member of the public wishing to directly address the board on any item listed on the agenda may do so when the item is being considered by the board. Speakers are requested to be brief in their remarks. The chair may limit each speaker to a comment period of 5 minutes. And I understand we have 2 public speakers. Can we start with, it looks like Mr. Jim, is it Kaufman, sir?
Perfect.
Kerfman, okay. Thank you.
When I put my eyes in here. I'm Sergeant Jim Kerfman, United States Army, retired, of course. The reason I'm here today is I want to talk about my water bill. Mostly, I want to talk about the administration fee. Last year, this exact same time, I'm a Tier 1 user. My units were 1.97. My consumption was 2.90. Total price was $5.71. This was last year, at the same time. Administrative fee, monthly fixed charge was $36.57. Chromium 6 surcharge, $9.71. This year, same time, Tier 1, 7.24 units, consumption 3.46, price $25.05. That in itself is enough to piss off the Pope. Anyways, monthly charge this month was $46.70. Chromium 6 surcharge, $9.71. My bill last month was $81.46. I live alone. I don't have any cattle, no horses, no animals. I got a half a dozen chickens. Now you're telling me, as of tomorrow, that $46.70 is now $53.61. My question is this: who decides on rate hikes? How long must we continue to pay for this Chromium 6? As I understand it, I think we've been paying for it for about 4 years, maybe 5. Okay, that's $9.71 per month, per person, per structure. That's $116.52 a year. The last time I looked at the number of people living here, it's now 13,000. So that $116.52 times 13,000 is $1,504,760 per year. Now my question is, where's that money going? And how much did you have to pay for that survey that you did 4 or 5 years ago? Last month, I read a study, and it said housing is up by 44%. Gas is up by 44%. Electricity is up by 28%. Groceries is up by 22%. And rent is up by 21%. Do we now have to put water in that same category as that? Because come next month, come tomorrow, my bill is going to be $89.46. And according to your paperwork, this year, I'm going to pay $53.61 for administrative costs, charges. Next year, it's going to be $59.41. Jump $6. The following year, 26, it jumps $8 to $68.36. And in 27, if I'm still kicking, it's going to be $78.95. This is outrageous. What are we getting for that money? No response. My question is this.
Sir, we can't
your-
respond to you. We're not legally allowed to respond to you.
Who is? Where's the lawyer at?
This is a public comment period. It's not an item on the agenda. So I'm sure the board would direct you to come into the office. I can go over these with you. And some of the numbers that you have as far as the number of accounts and everything are incorrect, but I'd love to sit down and talk to you and go over it with you.
Well, the
But
number
they
of
can't respond.
population could be more or less. But last time I looked, it was, like I said, 13,000. Okay, but still, you're paying $1.5 million a year for what? And you've been doing it for what, 4 or 5 years now? How much did you pay for that survey that you did 5, 6 years ago and did nothing about it? I mean, what happened to that? As I recollect, we bought that dairy on Sheep Creek. Yes? Yes? You did?
Bought a dairy years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
All right. Because you said that the groundwater there was better than our wells. The reason why you bought it was because you were going to spike our wells with that well to reduce the amount of chromium-6. My question is this: if you did do that, which I think you did, how are you getting into our water system? Where's the line at? You didn't do it underground, and you didn't do it overground.
Yeah,
What, are you trucking it?
No, just to give you a quick answer on that, when we first started the Chromium-6 project years ago, we were able to come up with a better plan to not tie the dairy wells in at this point and reduce the kind of changing the pumping habits of the wells that we have, which reduce the Chromium-6, and we have it down for most of the wells. There is a cost involved with that, and I'd love to sit down and go over the numbers with you. I'm just not prepared to go over every number tonight because I don't have what you're looking at.
Well, it just seems to me that if you continue down this road, I think that you are going to force us, old timers and retirement people who live on a fixed income, away from our home. Just like housing, gas, electric, and rent, and groceries. Just like the dump over there. A couple of years ago when you did that, we had that big powwow here. And all you seem to have done by doing that, in some roads that I travel, you've just increased the amount of people that dump. I know somebody says, well, if you see somebody, no, that doesn't work. Because, no offense to you, Sheriff, like the Sheriff's Department, last year, on July the 10th, there was an explosion on the big house on my corner, followed by several shots fired. This was about 1:30 in the morning. I called up, hey, shots fired, blah, 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 this is where it's at. Come right away. Nobody ever came. Not your fault. So it seems to me that you're forcing us old timers out. No comments? No rebuttal?
If you'd like to make an appointment, Mr. Bartz can answer most of your questions at a later time. But thank you for your comments.
Put it on the agenda, then it could be discussed.
Yeah.
Sir, things that are not on the agenda, we are legally not allowed to talk about per the Brown Act. We are bound by the law that the state has put us on. If you wish to talk, you can come in and talk. If you want something on the agenda, that can be requested and possibly set up.
I want to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is, sorry, pardon my English, but this is bullshit. The next few years, it's like, we won't be able, my friend here, my lady friend here, we're gonna be struggling to pay our damn water. That's not right. It's not right, and it's too late. Explain what it is, what that administration charge is for. It can't be for some gal in there, over there, sit behind a computer in an air-conditioned room, dressed nice and never sweats a drop, pushing a few numbers on a computer. No.
Hopefully, Mr. Bartz can explain that to you when you meet with him, if you want to schedule that meeting. And I'd like to call up Glenn, is that Brocker?
Glenn? Oh boy, you're up.
And did I get your last name correct, sir?
Yes, it's Brocker.
Okay.
I'm not real good at this, so I'll just tell you what my thoughts are. I believe in preventive maintenance, and I live on La Mesa Road, and I go down Butte Mirror sometimes, and then I usually go up Wilson Ranch when we're coming this way. I see water risers. You've got a fire hydrant, and then there's a line coming down and what I call a riser, and cars are driving over them, and they're not covered with dirt. Of course, you can't get people out there that's going up and down the dirt roads like this. I was hoping to maybe convince you, excuse me. I was hoping to maybe put it on an agenda or something that you could make a website, for instance, that we could go to and say, hey, I was driving down Butte Mirror Road so far from Highway 18 on the 4th fire hydrant. There's a riser showing and I see people driving over it. And this way you would have something on a website that would say, hey, somebody's turned this in the next week or so. Let's see if we can get somebody to drive by, see what we can do. You folks are really at a disadvantage because you don't have enough people that's going to drive up and down the roads, wherever riser's at, what's happening and all this. But if you could kind of train us people, okay, you're driving down the road, you see this, get on a website and just put this in, or use your phone and put in a GPS location, and usually you could find it by that way. I'd like to see that because I believe in preventive maintenance. Plus, I don't want my water shut off. And I don't think any of you folks do. You probably all live in the community, and whatever's happening, you don't want your water shut off neither. And so that's my one item, because I've got two risers. I've got one on the corner of La Mesa Road, and it's probably Arizona. There's a bunch of cars taking that road now, and they're all, I can see the tire tracks on it, and the riser wasn't showing, and now it is. There was about 3 or 4 inches of dirt over it. I don't know how you're going to put enough dirt on it to keep this from happening. I just don't know. The one riser on Butte Mirror that I've seen, it is now broken off, and when I turned the corner, I told I said, oh my gosh, that riser's broken. I expected to see water coming out. So I don't know what's happened or anything, but apparently the water company went and was able to shut the water off to that riser. So, but those are the things that I get a little bit, okay, how can we fix this? I'm just throwing out questions, and you know, that's me. And then should I bring up the other?
Whatever you would like.
Okay. there's a lot of us that have tractors, and we're killing you out there on the roads. However, I only do one road, and it's from Sonora Road over to Wilson Ranch, and I don't go all the way to Wilson Ranch because they had water put in at that house, and I don't know where that is at. But that part of the road, I can go as deep as I want. There's no water lines and there's no electricity. I know that for a fact because I moved in '93. The water company used to bring their grader down, and he'd not do my house and go down, come around and up. So one day I stopped him. I said, "Why aren't you doing my road?" He says, "There's no water line there." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I put in a spaghetti line," as you folks know about spaghetti lines. And so there's no water line on my property and no water line from Sonora over to Wilson Ranch, except for that one house that Jim was talking about. And so I would like to see something put in the bill on, whenever I get my monthly bill, I would like some way for you folks to warn us idiots that take and drive our tractors out there, and also people that drag their drags and everything. Can we warn them that, hey, you could be looking at a $5,000 bill put on your water bill because you just popped a riser. You just messed up a whole fire hydrant. And so I think if we can get the public knowledgeable about this, we can prevent a lot of problems from happening. And of course, you know, whatever, I think I read a few years ago, yeah, we're supposed to keep 3 feet of dirt over the top of the water lines. Good luck on that when it rains like it did last year. And our spaghetti lines are showing, the water lines are showing. You've got a real hard problem there. And where you're going to get that amount of dirt to build all that back up, oh, Lord knows. So those are the items that I'm looking at. Just because I like to do preventive maintenance, can we stop something from happening so that I don't run out of water? And
Thank you.
so that's where I'm at with a lot of this stuff. So
All right. Well,
I'm
thank you
just
for your
throwing it out
comments
to
and
you.
your concern. And we have our operations manager over here. I saw him taking notes, and we'll take some notes on the other stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, just so you know, for right now, if you see something, call into the office. I get calls and texts all weekend long. I keep the board informed. I send that off to Sean. So if you have something, let us know the location. You can call the office. If it's after hours, the answering service, we can look at something like that. I don't think it's a bad idea as far as having something where we could notify.
Even if you could give us a phone number on our bill, if you see something, text it to us.
Yeah, and there is.
Most of us have these phones, and other people are really good at this.
Yep, and there is quite a bit of information that goes out about grading the roads to cover the water lines. It's in a lot of the bills. So people still do it. We notify them, but they ignore it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's just a matter of, for instance, if I'm paying my water bill, or my wife does, and she says, "Hey, did you realize that this thing could cost us $5,000? You take your tractor out, you better not take it out there, or your head's gonna be off your shoulders."
It does happen. It does
You
happen.
know, I don't know about the rest of you, but my wife watches money. And she'll skin me alive if I go
Yep.
do something like that.
Well, thank you for your comments.
I did have an incident happen. Stupidity is stupidity. I went and helped somebody in their yard to get all the weeds down. And then they said, "Well, can you do the outside?" And I don't like going outside the fence, because inside it's your problem if I hit something, because you're supposed to know. Well, I went out there and I used my pitchfork and I didn't find anything. But at the end of their line, the water had come and buried one of those green things by about 6 inches. But when you got a 10,000-pound tractor pulling a Gannon, 6 inches isn't very much. And I had to call the water company and tell them that I kind of messed up a little green thing that you cover water with. I didn't break the line, but I messed up your electronics. And $546 or $550 later, but I told them to bill me the next month. Well, they did.
Yes.
So I think if we could get it out that if you're dragging the road with a drag, if you're using a tractor with a drag, folks, you could be looking at whatever money because you folks would know it. But if it's on my water bill, if you're dragging a road and you hit something, we will fine you this $5,000 to repair it or whatever, and this is approximately what it costs, or it could go 5 to 10,000, 3 to 7 or whatever, because you folks know the prices that we're on.
We've had some in excess of 20,000.
Before we move on to community reports, are there any other speakers for public comment? Nope, seeing none, can we move on to community reports? I see Sam out there.
Need somebody's glasses. Good evening, everybody. Members of the board, it's good to be here in person. Usually I'm just stuck on your little TV here, so this is a little nicer. I actually get to see people in the community. Again, for those who don't know me, I'm Sam. I'm representing Supervisor Paul Cook for the county. Just a brief update for everybody on a potential item upcoming for the next Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday. We're expecting there to be an item on the Phelan Road rehabilitation project that I think I've mentioned before. This will just be a notice of exemption under CEQA for the project to continue. This is the rehabilitation and repavement project. So it's reconstruction and rehab of most of Phelan Road. There'll be some curb and gutter work, ADA accessible ramps, some striping, signage, pavement markings, that sort of thing, just to kind of fix it up so it's a little smoother than what I noticed on my way in today. So we're excited to do that. As a reminder, this is not the big Phelan project that I mentioned before, the widening. That's going to be still a couple years out, but we're still working on that one. But wanted to give an update to you guys all here today on that.
How far is that from the field, from the road, from the city?
It's about from Beakley to Baldy Mesa. I don't know.
So you're going to resurface the whole thing, or just
No, the internally.
rock?
We're going to have a bigger, not to get too off topic here, a bigger widening project on Phelan Road that we're going to start. I want to say construction right now is scheduled for 2028. That will add 2 lanes each way and a continuous left turn lane going straight down the middle. So that'll be the big project where we're going to fix everything up. This is just a pavement rehabilitation that we're going to get done this year.
So you're actually going to lay new asphalt?
Yes, sir. Additionally, for those of you in the community, commute over into Victorville very often, I want to highlight last month our office approved discretionary funding for the city of Victorville for their sheriff's station and civics plaza. It's about $3.7 million for that project to update, create a new police station there and a whole plaza. So for those of you who go into the city or the neighboring cities over there, we're looking forward to working with our sheriff's department on that to bring this moving forward. Additionally, if anyone has any questions, any problems they have with the county, it's directed mostly for the community here. County give any issues, anything with one of our departments, feel free to reach out to our office. We work with them to try to cut some red tape and work through these things for you. And I want to highlight, as I have before, our C-Click Fix app that the county has. It's a program where if you see any sort of road issues on a county-maintained road, snap a picture of it, send it into our website, and it goes straight to our Public Works, who will take a look at it and come right out and get that taken care of. So it's see it, click a picture, and we fix it. So we're pretty proud of that project. I know our Public Works team is pretty great at getting out there. So that's all I have for everybody. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Shoup?
I've got a few. The signal here by the McDonald's, what's the timeline for that? Do we have any idea?
Is that Clovis?
Yes.
Yeah. I do not have a timeline on that.
Okay.
I'll double check and get back to you on it.
I know that Victorville City has approved a stop sign, eventually a signal at Monte Vista, Duncan / Bear Valley. I know they're having to get the approval from you. What is the timeline there? There's been numerous deaths at that intersection. It needs to be ASAP, and it still hasn't happened. They approved it 2 months ago.
The city did?
The city did.
Okay. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'll
You look
reach
into
out
it?
to our public works
Okay.
director and get that for you.
Um,
That
I-
was Monte Vista and Duncan?
In Duncan/Bear Valley, it changes
Yeah.
names right about there. It's just east of the new police station, sheriff's station.
Perfect, yeah. I'll get that for you.
On top of it, the crossings of 395 are hellish and are breaking apart our cars. They are nightmarish. It was, you could go to the lane to the right of you, and it wasn't so bad, but it's now a nightmare as well, and that needs to be solved ASAP. I don't know if that's your problem, a federal or a state,
That's a
but it
Caltrans,
needs to be
yeah, Caltrans.
corrected.
I believe that would be Caltrans.
Okay, so I'll contact them if you guys can get pressure on them too, because it's really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, also, the railroad crossings. The railroad has screwed up the crossings and people are catching air on them.
It's not as bad.
It's not as bad now? Okay. That needs to be solved too.
Absolutely. I'll come back next time and give an update here.
Awesome, thank you.
They're trying to fix that, but it's still, you still gotta slow down.
Well, they did that before they repaved the road.
Correct. Correct,
And
yeah.
it's still,
It's still a bit much, yeah. Our next legislative committee, I would love to have you there.
I'm so sorry.
Next legislative committee, we'd love to have you there.
Absolutely. It's on
Yeah,
my calendar.
so-
I should be able to make that.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome.
I'm
Thank,
good.
Anything else?
thank you and
Thanks so much,
Supervisor
everybody.
Cook for all the work you're doing up here and helping out with the roads. We really need it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Mark Rios, Sergeant for the Phelan Station. Haven't been here in a while. We've had no data whatsoever during the break. We had our systems broken into. However, we've gotten them back, and I've worked with our IT department. So I'm glad to say I'm able to come here now and give you stats on your prospective areas. So we will start with Piñon Hills. This is for the month of last month, obviously. Total calls for the month was 357 calls. Out of those calls, we had 40 reports that were generated. And out of those 40 reports, we had 11 arrests. Your number one call for last month was information call, and that could be anything. That could be CHP letting us know that they're en route to a crash. It could be fire letting us know they have a problem, or Public Works letting us know that they have a problem and either they need our assistance or they don't. The second one would be follow-ups, and that's just deputies or investigators going back out and conducting additional canvassing of areas because they needed to talk to people or look for evidence of a crime. Third is going to be area checks. That's proactive, either deputies going out and conducting area checks, and because it's a high crime area, or it's people calling in and say, hey, can you please check the area because we have OHV, which is our big complaint around the area, which I understand, or what have you, just for us to get out there and do some area checks.
OHV.
Off-highway vehicles, razors, quads, all that stuff. Fourth is going to be wireless 911s, and that's just anyone dialing 911 from a cell phone. And lastly, this is a new top one for us, is traffic stops. So our deputies are out here doing proactive traffic stops, slowing people down, running stop signs, red lights, so that they're out there trying to do some traffic enforcement to assist CHP. So again, that was for Piñon Hills. For Phelan, we have a total of 721 calls for the month, 85 reports that were taken by deputies, and out of those 85 reports, we arrested 16 people. For the call volume, first one's going to be information call. Again, we went over what an info call is. 2 is going to be wireless 911s, people calling 911. Third is going to be follow-ups. And fourth is going to be welfare check. That's somebody calling in saying, hey, can you either, as strange as it may be, check on my house, check on my pet, check on my neighbor. It's just a welfare check. We're just checking the welfare of whatever it is they're calling in for us to go out there and look for. And fifth will be audible alarms, and that's any audible alarm from a business or a house where it went off, an ADT or whatever, called us and said, hey, can you please check it out? Other than that, I appreciate the roads getting fixed because it's rough at times. So thank you.
At times.
And that's all I have. Anything else?
Any questions for the sergeant?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad I could be back with some
Maybe
data.
maybe a question or
Thank you.
a comment on traffic. I know when the 15 freeway is going through its construction phases, Phelan Road becomes the next traveled
Highway.
area. Yeah, it does. But I don't know, hopefully it's not our locals, but I see a lot of people going straight when they should be turning right. In
Wilson
town.
Ranch and Phelan Road?
Yeah, and then also here at the DeWiener Schnitzel, Circle K, or now I think they're Rocket. But if I wouldn't have been a defensive driver, I would have put somebody in the DeWiener Schnitzel parking lot the other day. So
Not to make excuses, but let me kind of explain kind of traffic and how that's viewed, not necessarily viewed, but how we're either able to do it or not. So most days we have 2 deputy sheriffs, sometimes only 1. Now the deputy sheriff for the Phelan station that I'm in charge of, we cover from Wrightwood to the 15 freeway, which goes all the way down to the Cajon, right there at the 138. We go all the way up to El Mirage to the LA border. That's 2 deputies. And unfortunately, these audible alarms or a person crime or a property crime is going to take way more precedence than per se traffic. Sometimes, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I'm en route to a hot call that I cannot break from. There's certain protocols that we have. If I'm going to an emergency or a priority 1 call, I cannot break to stop some yahoo who wants to go straight in a right turn only, almost causing an accident when I'm getting somebody that's getting hurt, actively being hurt. So it's upsetting, especially to me, right? This is our community, and yes, I would like people to drive, but we don't have the manpower. And the same thing for CHP. If they were here, they'd be able to tell you they have 1 guy for this side of the 15, 1 guy for that side of the 15, and 1 guy that goes up north. They're hurting for personnel just like we are. So we are working on that. The sheriff is working on getting us more personnel. They gave us 7 more people, matter of fact, within this last year. So we get it when we can. And that's what I got to say about that.
Aren't they narcotic people that were supposed to take care of the pot farms and stuff?
So
Did they or?
yes, I will tell you from what they initially had, back when they started the campaign against it, there was probably 3,000 open investigations. Now I know they're well below 800. So they have really done a great job in stamping out the marijuana. And as they come up and as we get information from either the public or whoever, neighbors that are just tired of it, they contact us, pretty much my office, and then I'm in contact with the narcotics guys. And we'll pass on the information and they'll hit it when they can. Again, I don't know what they have on their plate and what their schedule is, but
They've reduced it that much in 3-4 years, that's
yes, sir.
a good job.
Yes, sir. They've done a great job with it.
How about the desert turning into, after they hit it, the wind is taking all this plastic and everything else, and it's just, and when they go in and they hit it, they're destroying pretty much everything.
We understand that, and they do now have county code enforcement that does go along with the marijuana team. So not only are they able to see it, take photographs, do their investigation alongside the criminal aspect of it, they are now finding the homeowners, or first letting them know, hey, you need to clean this mess up, and then if they don't, then they'll start finding them, and then there's a process. So I'm not going to speak for them because I don't know exactly what the process is, but they let them know, then they fine them, and then after a certain period and all this notifications that they do, if they don't clean it up, then the county will come in and clean it up, and then they'll put a garnish on their land.
Could you have a private citizen go and clean it up or help?
Ooh, hey.
I could use 3 or 4 greenhouses on my property and roll the tomatoes and vegetables and,
I think we all would, but I'm not. I'm
Not
going
gonna
to say a
cross
hard no on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sevi, do we have any other representatives from the community? Nope. All right. We will move on to consent items, and the item A, approval of the minutes. There was a minor change. They removed my name on a couple items and put Director Snyder's name there, so there was that change. With those changes, do we have a motion to approve the consent?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion passes. We have no matters removed from the consent calendar. We have no presentations and appointments. We'll move on to 6B. 6A has been pulled. 6B is discussion and possible action regarding the meter assistance program. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to let Sean present this program. He kind of came up with the idea and developed it, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to present this tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Bartz. There are approximately 314 properties within the district boundaries that have had dwellings placed on them that don't have a service line or a water meter to supply potable water. Our preliminary analysis revealed about 154 of those with structures that are about 660 feet or further away from main lines, and that could include abandoned structures. Those remaining 160 parcels include 65 with structures within the 660 feet of a main line, 59 of those parcels with structures within 330 feet of a main line that might need an easement or a short main line extension, and 36 of those parcels that are currently being served by 1 meter but that may have additional living structures on them. Several of these properties have reached out to the district indicating their desire to purchase a water meter but lack the means to purchase said meter. Implementing a water meter assistance program would allow these residents to place a $3,500 down payment, therefore covering the district's installation costs, those hard costs being the meters, staff time, service line materials, and allowing the customer a period of time to pay the balance of that meter installation off over a period of 5 years. A standard water meter installation cost is law of average, so around $12,500 with $10,950 of that being the connection fees. After that $3,500 down payment, the balance would be roughly $9,000. If a resident elected to participate in this program, that payment would be plus or minus $172 as illustrated in Exhibit B. The monthly payment for this would be in addition to any and all monthly water billing charges. Our current process to obtain a water meter begins with that application for a will serve letter allowing the district to determine the requirements for each of these parcels. In addition to those requirements, it's recommended to place a lien on these properties participating in this program as our current SOP for any balance exceeding $500 and with payment arrangements exceeding 6 months. The eligibility and participation in the water meter assistance program shall be at the sole discretion of the general manager, as Mr. Kennedy was kind enough to weigh in on. If a participant in the water meter assistance program does not meet the payment terms stated above, the service would be subject to disconnection of service in compliance with the district's ordinance 2019-02. The fiscal impact for this program, it would be the initial number of meters sold multiplied by the $3,500 down payment, and then the monthly revenue from those participating meters. We have Exhibit A is a heat map of these properties that our initial investigation kind of turned up. Our second exhibit would be an amortization schedule of the payments. And this item has been before the engineering committee. The committee recommended bringing it to the full board for consideration. We have had district legal counsel over this document. And Mr. Kennedy, help me if I'm wrong here, but I believe legal counsel is okay with the document. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for Sean?
I just have one question real quick. Is it only for these houses or will it be for potential future as well?
It would be, so it was recommended that there be a opening sunset date to the program, which we compiled at 6 months. So once the program begins, that sunset or termination clause would be 6 months from the start of the program. And it would be open to anyone and everyone meeting the qualifications within, and at the sole discretion of the district's general manager. But they still have to follow the standard operating procedures going through our engineering department to make sure they're eligible for a meter.
Okay, that was it, I like the ending date, that works.
Yeah. You indicated that if they didn't meet the obligations of the contract they signed into for this, that you would disconnect the service, but there'd still be some outstanding costs that were put out to get that service in. Would that require you guys to file a lien against the property to recoup the remaining funds if they didn't follow through with the contract?
Part of the eligibility for the water meter assistance program, because it does the terms of the district policy, because it exceeds the $500 or the payment arrangement longer than 6 months to secure the district's position initially, a lien will have been placed on the property.
Okay, yeah, that's right, you did say, thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question. See if I get this straight. You're saying that a water,
Do you mind stepping up to the microphone? That way we can, people online can hear that way too.
oh, no, they can take Jim Curfew, United States Army, retired, how about? Let me see if I get this straight. You're telling me that a water meter for a residential property is gonna be thousands of dollars? $10,000
Currently,
to put a new one in?
the average cost to purchase a new water meter today is plus or minus $12,500.
I'm moving to Texas. Yep, pushing us out.
93, it wasn't that much.
Hell no.
I put
Neither
one
was
in,
gasoline.
I put one in 9 years ago, and it was just under 10,000,
You put
so.
it in 10 years ago?
About 9 years ago, yeah, so we were already pushing 10,000 9 years ago.
Well, I moved here 20 years ago this January. And I don't recall what it was, but I'm sure it wasn't about $10,000 for that one little meter. And I think my people put the line in from the meter to the house.
I think that,
You're responsible.
I think-
The builder is responsible for that.
All they do is put your meter in. Up to the meter.
Yeah, when you purchase a meter, you're not just buying a meter for $10,000 or $12,000. You're buying the infrastructure to provide the water to your meter. So you've got wells, you've got booster stations, you've got tanks, you've got all the regulations that we have to go through. And we had a rate study done, and we're very competitive with the other agencies. Not saying that that's a great deal, because it seems like quite a bit, but there is, when you're looking at $2 million to drill a new well, and how many homes that can serve, that has to be paid for somehow, and it shouldn't be paid for by the existing customers. If you're adding a new burden to the system, you're expected to pay the part, and that's the way the determination was made on that. Not arguing with you on, on whether the price seems good or not, but that is what's involved with
Nothing
it.
about it sounds good. I mean, come on.
Well, you had mentioned that electricity had gone up 44%. We couldn't comment on that when you were talking about
Well,
that,
you
but,
can't comment on any one of them.
well, this is an item
We
that
can-
we're talking about. So part of the cost, just think, if electricity went up 44%, we boost the water about 2,000 feet. And all of that water that's pumped out of the ground is from electricity. So if electricity's gone up 44%, you can imagine the increased cost to the district to furnish water to everybody. That's just one example of what we run into. We don't,
But the question that I had was, if you bought that dairy down the road for the water, which is what you did, how are you getting the water out of that?
this is a little off the subject, but we did an engineering study, and it was gonna be $23 million to get water up from the dairy. And we figured out about half as much to do it with the existing wells. So, but that's another story, so.
You didn't buy that.
We did, but we also, the dairy was actually donated to the district. We bought the water rights.
So we actually didn't pay for the dairy land, we paid for the water rights, and the dairy itself was donated to the district.
Yeah.
So how you get the water from that?
Well, the water is in the
it's-
same underground
it-
reservoir.
Yeah, the water's in the
There's no
basin.
line that goes from there.
No,
Yeah,
there
but
doesn't.
water's fungible in a basin, so if you drill a well anywhere, it's within the basin. So we were able to use those water rights with our existing wells and not have to pay Mojave Water Agency import costs for water.
So you're not pumping it out of the dairy into ours?
Not currently, no.
Well, how's that water getting to spike our wells?
Well, because it's within a groundwater basin, and a well in any part of that basin pumps water out, so the rights are within any part of a basin.
I believe you're referencing the district came up with a methodology called well profiling. If you contact our office, I'd be happy to give you the demonstration and presentation that's been before.
Everybody wants to talk to me by themselves, especially.
Are there, were there any further questions for Mr. Wright? Were there any further questions for Mr. Wright?
No.
Sergeant Rios will meet you in the parking lot after the meeting.
Do we have a motion on 6B? Anybody like to make a motion to approve 6B?
I motion to approve the water meter assistance program.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll give that a second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing none opposed, the motion passes 5-0.
I'd just also like to add thank you to Sean for putting all that together, because we had it in engineering committee and he added all the extra amortization schedule, I'm sure with help of other staff and everything. And I think it's a fantastic
Yeah,
idea.
one of the important things that we talked about was sunsetting it
Yes.
at a certain period, so.
So, thank you, appreciate that.
Well, the nice thing is it'll be in place, we'll have something to use if we ever had to use it again in the future. Or if even other agencies can cling on to it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about water? Somewhere between 2001 to 2005, our little newspaper came out and it said, we're taking water out of the ground that hasn't seen sunlight for 20,000 years. So it means we're bringing out water that's, according to.
I can't talk back now. I'm in the meeting with the water district.
And so now, in Arizona, they've got that crack that's starting, they're in the south and it's slowly going north. And my sister's house is somewhere near that crack. Is California looking at the same thing, that if we keep taking this groundwater out, are we gonna create another big problem for us that, does anybody know, or?
Well, we don't crack, we subside.
There's areas in California that have major issues, especially even with like the settling along the aqueduct due to subsidence. We do not have that issue here. Our groundwater is fairly deep, and we don't have any noticeable subsidence on the surface.
Say it is, it's by the aqueduct.
400 feet.
From here, it's probably 700.
Yeah, it average is probably 4, and 700 here is, get further up, it's even deeper. Till it's not.
I remember years ago, I was gonna buy some land up in Oregon, and we went to visit the site. It was a little 3-acre spot. And my neighbor came over and wanted to know who we were, and I said, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this property, blah, blah, blah. I said, I see you got a well. He goes, yeah. I said, how far did you have to dig to get the well? He goes, 150 feet. Okay, how much was it a foot? $100 a foot.
It's pretty cheap. Oh,
It
no.
just depends on the soil and, how deep they're going. They gotta have the cost of bringing the equipment out, and they're gonna make it up somehow. Ours are, for us to drill a well, in the range of 1,000 feet is about $2 million to equip it.
Can we move on to 6C? Update on district projects, Mr. Bartz.
I have nothing to update as far as the manager's report.
Okay. Move on to item 7.
I think George. Yeah.
Nope, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe if I can add to that agenda item. Just to give an update on the Civic Center project. The grading plans are pending for submittal for approval by county. We should be getting those plans here probably next week sometime. They're just kind of going through their final check before they get submitted. We're hoping that it'll be a month before we get those approved. With that being said, we are waiting for those grading plans to post it for public notice for FEMA on the NEPA requirements. And that's on the environmental assessment. Once we have that in hand, we'll post it publicly in the publication and also on our website. And that's like a 30-day public notice. So that would get us through the FEMA funding for that project. That would include 3 parts of the environmental and the NEPA, which is the geotechnical, the soils study, as well as the grading plan. With that, I have nothing more to add. I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess you would call it. Unless we're there. I just want to say that. We're there. So we're going through the procurements of the project with our consultants. That is on both the Civic Center as well as the park enhancement. In that agenda item, you probably took a peek at the tables that Jennifer put together. It's pretty much breaks out the cost expense on each of those projects, which is the 14-acre project, the park enhancement, that's the pickleball court, and the community garden, as well as the Civic Center project. We will be updating the table at every meeting. We're towards the end of it. If you look at the total cost for a project, and specifically for the Civic Center project, we started this back in 2011. We're in that spot where you look at the cost for a project of 10%. That's engineering, all the soft costs before you put a shovel on the ground. We're within that. Though we went through all the changes on this project with the redesign, FEMA funding for the $2 million to $500,000 that we're getting from the county for this project, we're in a good place as far as the numbers. It took quite a bit to dive into these POs. We have a list of consultants that are also on the table. It kind of breaks it down on what was put into this project. And we're building that as well for the 14-acre project as well. The enhancement, where it's a small project, also being funded through grants. So with that, we have Jen here, Kim as well, that can answer any questions you may have related to grants and projects. We're here to help.
I got a question. At Civic Center, that's the 14 acres right here with the swimming pool and the...
No swimming pool. No swimming pool. The 14-acre property is just directly east of us. Yes.
It's right there where the park is.
Yeah, so at the east end of it.
Let me ask you this. You never did say. How much is that going to cost? Who's going to pay for it?
That's part of the big scheme of it, and there is funding for it. I personally am in engineering. That would be the question to the board.
So you don't know who's going to pay for it?
That's for engineering. Yeah, I'm just involved in the design and management of the projects. I mean, we're in the preliminary stage of a design, other than just the 65% submittal to the county for conditional use permit approval by the Board of Supervisors. That's where we're at with this project. So there is no allocation of any funds to put a shovel in the ground.
So we, people, aren't going to get tagged for this new...
That's all.
It will not be on your water bill.
It's not a water bill, it's
Water
all
funds
parks.
will not be used to pay for the
Won't be in
park.
our property taxes.
No, it won't be on property
No,
taxes.
no property tax.
So we're not going to get a bill somewhere along the line where you have to pay, like this chromium 6 stuff.
No.
By the way, you're going to be tagged from now on $100 a month more.
No.
It's never going to end.
No, I could say that you're not going to find a line item like a chromium 6 on your water bill for rural parks.
Or any bill that I get.
You know, bring in your questions when we have a meeting. I'd be happy to answer them. I can go over all of this with you. It's just not on the agenda.
Is that it, George?
That's all for me, yes.
Is there any further questions for George? No. Anybody else? No. All right, we will move on to committee reports and comments. Engineering Committee.
engineering minutes from July 17th are in the packet, and we meet next Wednesday at 4:30 here, if you're interested in finding out about the projects that we have.
Next Wednesday at 4:30?
Next Wednesday at 4:30 here. It's every third Wednesday of the month for engineering, and engineering goes over the costs of things, the projects that we're doing, the wells, all of that stuff.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee met and we reviewed the quarterly expenses, the disbursements, the solar farm status. It's actually in the black now. And also we reviewed the investment report. So if you want to learn about the finances of the district, we go over that in the Finance Committee. All of the information is available.
That's next Wednesday?
That is only once a month. No, I don't know when the next. Pardon me?
That's once per quarter.
Once per quarter. So that will be in a couple of months. Probably in September.
Put that in your letter? Can you put that into your letter, what we get once a month with our bills, saying, hey, these are the meetings that are coming up if you want to attend? Please contact me at.
I think you're on my
.com.
distribution list, so you should be getting these, but the next one's October 15th at 5, or I'm sorry, 4 o'clock.
Legislative Committee.
We haven't met, so we plan to meet here next month or so.
I don't remember the date, but I believe it might be September.
Parks, Recreation, and Street Lighting.
We met yesterday, and we went over the great attendance to all of the movies in the park. The community really seems to enjoy those, and then the rest of the upcoming events for the year. The holidays are coming, so all the baking classes, the painting classes, and the Christmas tree lighting are coming up. So,
Nice. And then waste and
yeah, and the
recycling.
farmer's market.
Oh, farmer's market, yeah. Waste and recycling.
We meet a week from today at 2:30 or 2? Wait, it's
Yeah,
2.
it's 2:30.
2:30. That we haven't had one in 2 months.
Okay. And now we'll move on to item 8. Are there any staff reports? What is in the agenda material? Beyond what is in the agenda materials? No. Okay. And directors' reports. Mr. Roberts.
Nothing to add.
Mr. Schneider.
I have nothing to add.
Ms. Kuyava. Director Kuyava.
Nothing to add.
Director Phillips.
I attended the Mojave Water TAC meeting, and they went over how the state water project works, and they called the whole thing around Sacramento the spaghetti bowl of legislation. He may do a presentation just on that. He also went over the Mojave Water pipeline and all that, and how their whole system works in detail. If you want to catch it, they have the audio's up, and all of their presentation things are up on their website. Very educational, and left me having to catch back up afterwards. So it taught me a lot. And that's it.
Thank you. And
I did have one
go
question.
ahead, Mr. Roberts.
I was wondering, we always go over the general manager's salary and compensation in August, and I haven't heard anything. So,
Mr. Kennedy, would you like to jump in?
Sure. That matter has been deferred for shortly while other items have been going on with respect to that district staffing.
Okay.
Thank you. And then I have nothing to report. We'll move on to item 10. Ms. Sevi, will you please, do we have any correspondence?
We just have the flyers that went out in our customer bills about how to read your water meter and what it can do for you. Also some water saving tips We do have a used oil filter exchange coming up August 31st at the AutoZone right here. And so if you bring in a used oil filter, they will give you a new one. So, and then we have a household hazardous waste collection event, which takes place in Wrightwood this year on September 28th. This is an opportunity to bring all your HHW items free of charge. Two more. We have a community cleanup September 14th. This one will have a shred fest. So if you have any documents you need shredded, there will be a giant shredder there to shred documents. And then we're very excited. We get to bring back our tree planting class on October 19th. All attendees who pre-register will receive a free zero water tree along with instructions on how to care for it. And that is all.
All right, thank you for that.
On that oil filter, they've got to be drained for 12 hours to turn them in.
Yes.
And then item 11, review of action items. Were there any prior meeting action items?
We just have the continuing action item, but I don't have a status update on it at this time.
Okay. And are there any current meeting action items?
No, there are none.
And then item 12, set agenda for next meeting. Do any members of the board have any items they would like to add to the agenda for next month? Hearing.
So we're not going to discuss the general manager salary this month? Is that the concept?
Whenever Mr. Kennedy says it's a go, it's a go.
All right. Well, I just, been doing it for 15 years, so I just was wondering.
And then we
I
will,
have a question. Can we elaborate on as to why in roundabout terms?
There are matters that are subject to confidentiality, that are ongoing, that cannot be divulged publicly. Any board member that wants to discuss those items with me can contact me offline.
Thanks. You foresee we might need to have a closed session in the near future regarding all this?
Again, these matters involve confidentiality and of the employees, and out of respect for that, it would be improper for me to respond to those questions publicly. I would be glad to discuss any of those items individually with directors offline, but it would be highly inappropriate for me to discuss any of that publicly at this time.
Thank you.
Are we not going against any statute that we have as far as his contract is concerned to make sure that we do his general manager's evaluation at a certain point?
There is no statutory requirement that we have with that.
Okay, thank you.
any further questions for Steve? Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I have one more. As an elected official, we're all elected at large here. Is there at some point here in the near future, I could get the roles and responsibilities of the board and which each position? I know parliamentary procedures on an annual basis, somebody's nominated to president or vice president, and then the other members are just the directors at that time. Is there any policy or procedure for the board that we have on file that I could look at so I know what the process is?
Absolutely. The board has adopted a number of policies and procedures regarding its operations. Among those are the Sunshine Ordinance, which the board reviews every year, as well as your AB 1234 resolution, which sets forth all of your obligations as it relates to ethics training, board compensation, and board expense reimbursement. And those policies are brought before the board every year, as well as employee manual that is part of board review. So all of those documents are certainly are public documents and are available to the board as well as any member of the public.
All right, thank you. The only request I have is if I get a copy of all that.
Okay. Any other further questions? No? No further questions. We will adjourn at 6:06.